We got Robbie Ross back.
I'm here, man.
This is
back at high atop the
I know it's
Killjoy Ranch here.
It's kind of weird because I feel like I'm on your show. We got all the good equipment set up, and you brought your rig, which is always a good thing because you have better stuff and you know how to use your stuff better than I do.
It's a work in progress. It always is. Yours is too because you got a lot better stuff than you guys used to have.
Yeah. Now that I will agree.
You guys have done some major renovation and upgrades here. Really nice.
Well, it's like everything else. You learn as you go.
Yeah,
you know?
Right.
You have to screw a bunch of stuff up to figure out.
That's the only way to learn. I believe that.
Yeah, one of our iTunes reviews, it's not even a bad one, but it's a less than positive one, and I don't even slightly disagree with it. Because it was early on. It's one of the first reviews we got about the show on iTunes, and they said, the quality's not really what I'm used to on podcasts, but the guys are witty and funny, and I'll enjoy listening to it.
It's about the material anyway.
Yeah. But at the time that review was made, I would not disagree at all. The quality was not comparable to any decent podcast out there, but it's improved. You know, you learn, which you already knew about editing and stuff like that because you do so much with music. And on the stuff I did with music was like demos, you know,
right.
And then I turned the demos over to somebody who like you that knows what they're doing. So like when you can even, if you know what you're doing with your software, it also opens up a whole nother door. And then the other aspect is having, you know, you upgrade equipment as you go. So having the equipment and having the know-how, because I've seen people with a podcast studio that's like, whoa, but they don't know how to run it. So, so it's kind of a combination of both.
And a lot of times it's like the equipment is catered to what you do. So sometimes people just read what other people do and go buy all this crazy amount of gear because they're like, oh, that's what they do, but not realizing later on that it's catered to specifically what you do. And I've learned so much along the way. I mean, I didn't come into it knowing what I was doing either, like you know, adequately give me credit for, but it's something that you learn by like, you learn a lot of what not to do.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And then if you stay in there long enough and learn how to actually operate the gear that you have, you don't actually have to go buy the great gear. It's just learn how to work what you got, you know, and that's what I've learned over time. Of course, the more I learn, I'm like, oh, I need this for this specific reason.
Right.
Versus having something that can do something that I don't even know that it can do. Yeah. Or that I need to do that, you know. But that's what I give the podcast a lot of credit for, because when I jumped in there, it was really you giving me a shot to learn, and you had a lot of faith in me to do that.
And I like how it organically happened. You wanted to just come over and help out. You didn't want to be on the show.
No. And
it was sort of like, I love Howard Stern's show, his movie. What's it called? Private Parts, or something like that.
Private Parts, yeah. But you're talking about Robin Gibbons.
Yeah, he wasn't supposed to interact with her, but he did it anyway, and then she became a part of the show. And you went
sneaky.
You quickly went from just silent sound engineer to a regular personality for a very long time, and it was really fun. And I learned a lot during that time, and I'm still learning every day. It's like we were talking before we started recording, like
which as usual should have been recorded.
Yeah, probably a lot of what we said should have been recorded. But in the situation I'm at now, where you set up and you tear down, you set up and you tear down, there was a lot of inconsistency, but now I'm learning that too. You know,
right?
Because one thing about a lot of the podcasting equipment is like there's so many places where you have to turn the volume up and down.
Right.
You know, and like we're using headphones today, like you should. I don't, because I'm lazy, but everywhere there's a volume knob, and you have to kind of balance them all out in the sweet spot. It's like, why am I not getting anything? Oh, I got to click on this tab and then scroll down and turn the volume, the fader up on this software.
Too many gain stages. That's the worst.
Exactly.
That's every sound engineer's worst nightmare. It's like, I got 15 gain stages before I get to the final thing.
Yeah, and your baseline audio has to be just about mid-range perfect. And one thing I've learned is to eyeball it, because you can see the sound wave. And if it looks thin, bad. If it looks too fat, because it's easier because if you get too much, it clips. If you don't get enough, well, then you have to turn it way up, and then you're turning everything up, including that air conditioner in the background.
Well, you definitely cannot trust your ears, because you may have a sound, like I was saying, the gain stage somewhere may be hot. You look at your meters. The numbers is what tell you where you're at what decibels you're at. See, I used to use my ears, and then I'll have, I need more of that. And then next thing you know, it's peaking out because I gave it too much. But now I look at actual up and down meters to tell me where I'm at on the decibel level. And then when you go to mix it down, then you mix it down based on those parameters versus like, oh, now I can't hear it,
And then when you introduce callers, when people call in for interviews, that's a whole nother dimension, because what they hear is not necessarily what the people listening hear.
Right.
It may be they don't hear it enough, but then the other people hear it too much, or vice versa. And then, you can hear them fine, but they may not can hear you fine.
Exactly.
And so that's a whole nother dynamic you have to balance out. Luckily now, again, we were talking earlier, I have good internet now, and I could start doing
it's still amazing
internet
how,
like Zoom stuff, which will be easier.
It's still amazing how this type of software and equipment can get into the layman's hands, because used to in the 80s and early 90s, it took a room full of people to do what we're doing right now.
And racks of equipment.
Gear, of outboard gear, yeah. And so the fact that the technology has caught up with us, that we can literally do this now with easily affordable equipment is amazing.
Yeah, I think back to Clyde Hawley's studio where we did our first couple of albums, and man, he had to have, I would estimate $150,000 worth of just like cabinets full of racks full of all kinds of equalizers and faders and amplifiers and
limiters, compressors,
everything. And now you could literally do all that with a laptop and a microphone or two.
That's it.
Just the laptop has everything, that whole studio. And when I say studio, I don't mean a small room like this. I mean a full blown like studio.
And it's getting to the point where, like, the people who didn't use that old outboard gear, they understand the software better than the computer whizzes, because they used to actually work the real things.
Right.
And all this software is designed to emulate that thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so all these new people coming up, they never turned a knob of a real compressor, so they just only use software. And that weird learning curve is an interesting spoke in the wheel of having to learn. I started out on a lot of analog gear, but when I used the compressor, it was in a rack mount,
Yeah.
It was a real thing. And but it's been quite a jump to figure out the digital world. But
yeah, and it was funny to watch it catch up, because in the beginning it was like analog was everything, and it still is awesome to do analog, but it's just not practical anymore. When digital first came out, it sounded like crap. Like it hadn't caught up yet, like quality wise. But now, dude, like the stuff they're doing, like you were talking about, like you can get a microphone and do a preset plug-in on it and make it sound like any microphone you want it to sound like.
Right.
Do you want it to be a Shure SM7B? Cool, no problem.
Yeah.
Do you want it to be a
without physically changing the microphone out?
Right. You just change the
setting.
Yeah. And same with drums. You can lay out a electronic set of pads and make it sound like Neil Peart's drum set.
Yeah. Which is it amazes me that people are still surprised to know that their favorite album by their favorite band by their favorite drummer really didn't actually play on that album, and that happens more than they know. It's amazing to me that they're still surprised by that, because it's so much better and easier to accomplish. It's better sounding and easier to accomplish when it's not the real thing. But it starts with the real thing. It starts with a human dreaming up of the part and writing the parts that go in the song. So it still starts with the human, but when it hits the final thing that hits your ears, it's all been doubled, replaced, stacked, every all of that. It's not actually the real guy anymore.
Yeah, probably 100 years from now, they won't even need performers.
And it's perfect because
they can just use enough plugins if you know how to work the software. You don't even need people to write the songs.
And the original guy maybe just a little bit off time, and they snapped it to a grid. So now he's like,
we can already get a singer that sounds like shit and make them sound awesome.
Yeah, well, that's
called pop music.
That's by definition of the music industry today.
I got the pop music people on the line, and they're not happy.
They never are. But
well, we got together tonight to pay tribute to a good friend, a fallen brother. I wanted to give a shout out to Dale, the primetime hitman. He did something similar to this on his radio show on The Edge.
Right.
Isn't that what it's called? 88.5, the WMUW. And Michaela Compton does
she did too. Singer-songwriter.
She did one on
Local Licks.
Isn't that still Z98.5?
Yes, Z98.5. Out of Tupelo.
Yeah. So we're kind of late to the party, but I know for you this has been a tough time. For all of us, it's been a tough time. But you and Dakota were really, really close, and this has just been a shock. And we're still in the mourning phase, but hopefully we're at the place now where we can not just mourn, but also celebrate the life of an amazing musician and a great person and a hilarious person.
Oh yeah.
I wanted to kind of share with you my fondest memory. And I was going to ask you here in a minute how you got to know Dakota. I know obviously I got to know him through you guys because he was in Seeking Seven, and we're so closely related together in the music business. I remember there like Killj would have a lot of downtime, and if there was a weekend where y'all had a gig, I would just be like, I'm roadieing for Seeking Seven this week,
right?
And I would just jump in the Suburban with you guys, and I'd help y'all load in, and then during the show I would hang out and just be a fan in the crowd, drink all the beers at the bar, and then help y'all load out. And we had a lot of fun doing all that stuff. I think about Rockapalooza when you guys finally came up there. There's at a festival, there's so much hurry up and wait. It's like, get here at 9 a.m. You're playing at 10 o'clock tonight. So we're just hanging out and just being goofy and silly and trying to make each other laugh and pass the time. But my fondest memory was when, and it's hard to believe this was 2013, when we were recording the Rev Bell album. Dakota came out for a couple of days to help you out with the engineering and the recording, because not only did you record that album, but you were a performer on the album as well. You had guitar parts to play. And so when you were playing, he would kind of man the controls for you. And I remember we had such a good time during that time, just laughing. Like, I would laugh just until I was in physical pain.
There's actual, I can't, ironically, this is before Dakota passed, but the week before, I don't know what I was doing. I discovered there's 2 Killj YouTube pages.
It's probably more than that, but yeah.
Well, I found a second channel, and it had video from the Rev Bell session.
The making of? Yeah, it's still out there.
And I watched the section where I was actually tracking the solo to Bloodstained Halo, and Dakota was my producer engineer. He was pushing me to really dig in and get that solo done right. And I think I did like 30 takes on it, and he was patient with every take. And like you said, funny, but there's video out there if you want to go. Yeah,
he's on the video, and I know that's when we had the Batman, the big Batman doll, and everybody was sitting around eating supper, and I would like get my phone out and film it, and I would put Batman up beside your face and go, "What do you want to do?" I did that to like everybody around the table. I had such a good time during that, and it's hard to believe it was that long ago. But
it is.
Dakota was such a funny dude, man. Like, I can't imagine ever, that game you play where you stare at each other and the first person that laughs loses. Right. There's no way I could have done that. I would have instantly just lost.
And that's, I think, the hardest part about losing Dakota for me is that it's not supposed to be over yet.
Mm.
And what I mean by that, there's more road trips to be had, and there's more albums to record. I mean, we were not finished, and to knowing that he's not here to help me finish all that. I mean, it's really gut punched me, and I've been struggling to learn to accept that. And but you're right. He was the funniest person that you'll ever meet. He's contagious when you walk in a room. I mean, because at the point he'll make you laugh about even the things that are not even funny.
Yeah.
And he had such a drive and passion about everything he did. And you know, I told people a lot of times, I was like, deep inside, you know, beyond his comical external appearance, he's more particular about things than even I am. He's more meticulous about things than I am. And if it wasn't right, he would like, let's do it again. Let's do it until we get it right. And you know, and that's what I love, because I love having someone to push me and having a desire to just create music and give it to the world the way that we had a chance to do. And I just, you know, I still have a hard time accepting that part is done. You know, I can't call him up and say, listen to my new song, listen to this new idea. I can, you know, it wasn't the last time I spoke with him. I spoke with him the morning he passed away, but one of the last times was back in December when we dropped the new Stick and Seven record. And I didn't even realize that I haven't sent the final product to him yet. I just it didn't even dawn on me that, oh yeah, I hadn't sent it to him yet. But he sent me a message and say, hey, if you want me to critique that last couple mixes, let me know. And I was like, oh no, yeah, I'm done with it. I didn't send it to you yet. And I said, but let me send it to you real quick, because I can still make changes if I need to. And I thought I got the most sweetest reply from him. Is like, he said, he's talking about the Chaos, What Few Remain Volume 2.
Yeah.
His reply, but I would read it from my phone because it's still there. I'll probably screenshot it and save it forever. But he said, don't change a thing, because there's nothing I can say to make it any better. It's probably the best stuff that came out of the Stick and Seven camp. And if you know Dakota, trust me, if you know Dakota, he doesn't give compliment. I mean, he's the most honest person you'll meet.
Yeah.
You know,
because he wouldn't want to do you the disservice of just being nice and being like, oh yeah, dude, that sounds great.
That wasn't him.
He would be honest. Like I got lucky enough to work with you and him.
He would be honest in a nice way, but he was still.
Oh yeah,
honest.
yeah, definitely. I got really lucky to work with y'all on not The Surface.
Chaos Before Fall.
Before the Fall. Yeah. There's the one where I did A Pitiful Me with y'all.
Right.
And he was there that day. And it made me feel good, like you're talking about, to get his stamp of approval. Mm-hmm. Because
he had a high standard. He really did.
And that's good to have. You know, that's really good to have. How did you and him how'd y'all meet up? Like what was y'all like, how did he get in the band and all that?
That within itself is the funniest story ever. And I didn't just get Dakota out of the deal. There's this band that we played with back when Good Time Charlie's in Tupelo was a regular venue. And I think they only had 4 songs, but they needed some bands to I didn't know them. I didn't know them at all. Somebody else put this bill together, but we were on it. And you guys were too, actually, because Jut was there.
Dude, I remember they were in that band that had that badass female singer.
Yes.
I got one of their bracelets.
Right. She had
what was the name of that band?
It was Karma on Attack.
Karma on Attack.
Yes.
That's right. I had forgotten all about that. And I'll tell you what show it was. It was a memorial benefit show for the lead singer from.
Yes, you're right. That is what show it was. Joan Redd.
Yeah.
Anthony Borsato.
Yes. And we all got together at Good. There was a bunch of bands got together at Good Time Charlie's, and
There was this
I
one
did a
moment
big memorial show for him, and that's where I met them. Yeah, I remember that now.
There was this one section in their show where it was so comical because they knew they had messed up, but they just went with it, and they started laughing at themselves, and then they stopped and they started making jokes about themselves.
Yeah.
And to the point where I was standing beside Judd, and Judd was just like rolling. He goes, "Oh my God, these guys I love these guys. They're so funny." And well, that's where I met the band, Karma on Attack. Well, after I got to know them, they called me a couple weeks later because they heard I recorded some bands at home.
Right.
And they asked if I would record them. They got a couple originals, and I was like, "Sure, come over." And in those sessions that we recorded, that's where I met Dakota, and right away, not that he knew his parts so well, and he even went out of his way to show the other members how to get their parts down as well. And I knew right away. I was like, this guy can really play,
Yeah.
And coincidentally, I lost my bass player, probably within the same couple week window there, and so I didn't have anybody playing bass. I think maybe Dusty or Germ was filling in the position short, or something to that effect. And then I get a call after I recorded these guys, and I wasn't finished with their session, but and it was Aaron, and he's like, "Oh, Dakota quit." I was like, "Dakota quit?" Then he proceeded to tell me all the reasons Dakota quit. So I was just like, I heard him out, and I was like, "So you're telling me that Dakota's done? He's not coming back?" No, he's gone. He's not coming back. He quit. And now I just proceeded further. I was like, "Now y'all all good friends. There's no way that y'all can let a couple weeks pass and then
You're like, so how long is the coast clear before I can snatch you up?" Basically.
Well, it wasn't until that same phone call service. He's like, "No, it's done. It's never happening again." And then I was like, "Well, would you happen to have Dakota's phone number?" And I called Dakota up that same evening, and we spoke for several hours that evening over the phone, and he right away wanted to be a part of what we were doing in the Seeking Seven camp, and the rest is really history. It was probably about 3 to 5 years later, maybe closer to the 5-year mark. We were riding on a real late road trip, and Dakota was speaking back to the first time he saw us play, and he did tell me this. He goes, like a premonition or something. He said, "I went home that evening and I told my parents," he goes, "I think I found the band that I'm going to join." And that always made me feel like it was just right.
Yeah.
Not because the chemistry was there, because it certainly was. And he's such a dynamic bass player that gave a signature sound to what I call is the deafening sound of our Seeking Seven sound. Is Dakota is, even Shane, who plays with us now, just designed his rig around what Dakota was doing.
Yeah.
And that just tells you, the guy as great as Shane is, to look up to Dakota in that respect, to say, "Hey, I'm going to buy gear that you're using so I can sound like you when I'm, fill in your shoes." And
any idea what year that was? Because we were still playing shows to support the Verdict.
Right. That was 2010.
And I would say playing shows, not touring, but we were playing regularly. In fact, we played in Memphis the night before. We had a gig that Friday and that Saturday. The gig in Memphis was Saturday, and when we left the gig, the alternator went out on the van. And we were up till, God, really late. And we were in Memphis, and that's we're in Memphis, and that's where Joe's family's from.
Mm-hmm.
And luckily, he had a family member. The van needed a new alternator, and we finally went to bed at like daylight. And while we were sleeping, his cousin put on the new alternator for the van, and we got up from sleeping and drove straight to Good Tom Charlie's and did that show. That you're talking about.
I know
the only day they could get the venue and get everybody together was on a Sunday.
I remember it was 2010 when I met Dakota, and it was almost exactly a year to the date that we started, because I started 6 and 7 in 2009, and it was almost a year to the date that Dakota joined up with us.
Wow. That seems like yesterday and a million years ago at the same time somehow. Hard to believe.
Yeah, I feel like I watched Dakota grow.
Well, I mean, kind of literally, because like him and Jake, I mean, they're all like way younger than us.
Way younger, yeah. What's funny is the year 2009 when Jake joined the band, I went to his high school graduation. And I had just met him, but, he was in the band by that point. And in the summer that Dakota joined the band was the summer he graduated high school. So I literally known Dakota, Pat, and Aaron literally since they graduated high school, and Jake too, So,
oh yeah, Aaron, he's another little young.
Yeah, Dakota, Aaron, and Pat, they're all the same age, and they were all high school buddies. That's the reason that eventually, ultimately, I realized this one thing is like when I invited Dakota over, my prediction of what I was asking Aaron about, I was like, I didn't just get Dakota. Dakota came with the package because everybody loved him so much. And so next thing you know, Aaron's in my band. And next thing you know, Pat's in the band. And that's just because they were all so close to Dakota. They grew up together in high school together. And I was glad that they were part of what we were doing because, again, every one of those guys are very key to what we, have developed into since we started. Every band, goes through a phase where they're trying to find their own sound, and we're definitely no exception to that. And
you see me struggling over here with my beverage. I wouldn't have jumped up and got my beer in the middle of a podcast, but I remembered I left it in the freezer. I was like, I better get it before it freezes, and I didn't get it.
Not quite.
I've got an eruption happening over here. But yeah, in hindsight, that's a good idea, man. You just get a bunch of young people in your band, and you can kind of like raise them up in the way you want them to be.
In theory. But, life happens. I was the type of person that I guess I tell this story all the time, that I went out and grabbed a career. Then I came home. Then I started to work on music.
Right.
And these guys jumped on the ship right when they were done with high school. So, 4 or 5 years later, when this band thing ain't really making any money for them, and parents are encouraging them to move on with their life and get a job and things, life happens, and then you lose those guys. Because I was able to stick around only because I'd already established my career.
Right. You have to have a career.
Yeah.
Because it's not really necessarily just a backup plan. It's you got to have your plan A in a full effect so that plan B is even a possibility. Because
I would
as
say,
this stuff ain't further. Cheap. So you got to have a good career.
I would go further to say that don't ever even count on plan B being a thing.
Yeah.
I mean, if it does, it does, but don't count on it. Prepare yourself now to not put all your eggs in one basket, because that's setting yourself up to fail, and then you'll hate yourself for it later on in life when you're like, well, I just failed at it, when you really didn't, But then again, I look at my career and I thought, would I be further along if I started first and didn't, do college and do military, If I started right after high school, and I mean, would I be further along?
Probably not. Unless you had great connections. Because, I mean, think about, what was that big producer y'all went and recorded with? Travis
Wyrick.
Yeah, y'all couldn't have done that if you didn't have a job, a well-established career. I mean, you couldn't have even, a PA system, a good, decent equipment to play with, like having a van to transport everybody around in a trailer. And a new tire because it seems like every time you want to go do a gig, a tire's going to blow out. I don't know what that is, by the way. A lot of tires hate gig.
Probably because we do so many of them with no money.
Yeah, with no money,
we
don't take
make no
tires.
money. And that's the thing too, is like when you drive 4 hours for a gig and they give you $30, if that's a good night. If they give you $30 at night, I mean, you can't take that $30 realistically and go buy $2,000 worth of PA equipment. You know, it don't work that way.
Nope.
And so the PA equipment comes out of your day job. You know, that's really
that
where
tire came out of your day job.
Exactly. You know, and when you don't have a day job because you're banking on a career in music that doesn't exist, and it's really hard to, invest in yourself. And that's just the realities of it. But not to stray away from honoring Dakota. Dakota was really the heart and soul of what we did and what we started, and it was always the plan that we continued eventually, hopefully, no guarantee. And the reason that Dakota stepped down from the band in the first place was because of those reasons. Life, I got to get a job now, and I got to, I might even get married, and I might do this, and I might do that. And it hurt his heart to do it, but he did it with the intentions of letting himself go get established somewhere and then coming back to it. That was always the plan.
Yeah.
And so, when COVID was first mentioning and they were talking about the anticipated deaths, I never in a million years could have dreamt that it would hit this close to home the way it did.
I know, man. It's almost like, because I'm I'm kind of reluctant to even talk about COVID because it's so polarizing and people have different opinions about different things. And I'm, this has, my views about COVID have nothing to do with political anything. But because I've got a lot of friends that have had it. And even though it's like so real and it's all you're hearing about in the news, and I've got friends that have had it, and I've had to be quarantined because I've been in contact a couple of times, and I had a couple of scares thinking I might have gotten it because, like, I threw a birthday party for a close friend, and like me and him were like sharing a bottle and hugging on each other. And then that Sunday I found out he had COVID, and et cetera, et cetera. But still, it never really felt real to me until a close friend actually passed away from it. Then I was like, whoa,
yeah,
this shit is real. Like, it just blew my mind. Like, and it happened so fast. I mean,
really,
it seemed like, and you were in contact with him the whole time. I just saw through like social media and stuff, but it was basically like he got sick and then went to the hospital, and then within a day, two, it's like,
within the week.
It was like, wow.
By the end of the week, and it wasn't just him. I mean, a lot of people,
and his mother as well.
His mother passed away, and
a few days later.
And that's just, that's where, I mean, every single element about this whole situation has broke my heart. But such a sweet, 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 sweet family that were just good people. And it just, you can't help but to ponder the question, why does this happen to the good ones? Why does this happen to good people? I mean, we're not supposed to ask the questions why, I don't think, but you can't help it sometimes. That's what I hurt so much for this family, because within 2 weeks, they lost a brother and a mom, and they're just standing there in the aftermath of it, just looking at each other, not really believing what's happening. And because COVID is involved and they're quarantined, and it ain't like the old days when someone passes where you can just go bring food to their house and and hang out and comfort one another, yourself and them included. And the fact that people are in isolation and you can't go visit, you feel so helpless.
I know.
And you feel a little bit lost, like I
want to do something, but I'm not allowed.
Yeah.
are supposed to. Like, I don't know where, what the deal is. It's before we start talking about doing this afternoon, I'd posed the question, like, I wanted to definitely showcase some of Dakota's music, and I was like, of course, there's pick any Seeking Seven song that he shines on, but I wanted you to pick at least 2 or 3. I call them Dakota centric songs, whether it be a song that he really shines on, or a song that he really enjoyed playing, or that he was particularly proud of. I knew you would know exactly which ones to pick. Why don't we throw a song in real quick? Because I want to get in it, at least 2 or 3 throughout this episode, because it's all about, all about celebrating his life, and music meant so much to him.
And he was so good at it. And I picked 3, and there's a reason I specifically picked these 3. I could pick them all, to be honest, because they were all Dakota centric. But the first song that we started tracking in the studio in Knoxville with Travis was "Demons in Disguise." His bass is so strong and prevalent. It really made this record. And the funny thing is that, I think we're a bunch of green noobs going into this very professional studio with a guy with Grammys and doves on his shelves. And we all got yelled at from him. I call it rock and roll boot camp,
Yeah, I remember you saying that.
We all got yelled at. Jake got yelled at. I got yelled at. Germ got yelled at. Everybody got yelled at. But when Dakota got his turn to sit down on the bass, you could tell that Travis was just having an absolute blast tracking Dakota. That's how good he was. He was the only, we said this for years, he was the only one that Travis didn't yell at, And so here's Demons in Disguise.
Awesome. hey, we got to go ahead and do it. I'm just Irish enough for it to be a good excuse, a good reason to do a toast. And if anybody was worthy of a toast,
yes,
to our brother Dakota.
Dakota.
I hope the microphones picked up the clinking of the shot glass. We just did a small shot of Bushmills.
Bushmills. That's my first shot of that.
You're handling it well.
Yeah.
Have you ever had Jameson?
Yeah, it's very similar.
Yeah, I mean it's
to me.
Yeah, I go back and forth between Jameson and Bushmills. When it comes to Irish whiskey, that's my top two. But Alicia likes Jameson a lot better, but I think I like Bushmills a little better. But I like both. But yeah, that was little Irish. All right, so that was Demons in Disguise.
Mm-hmm.
I get my timelines mixed up. Was that?
That was the first thing. Well, because the infamous Green album, which I hopefully removed from all,
Outside These Walls.
Yeah, that album. He wasn't on that album. He came along right after.
What year was that?
That was 2010.
Y'all recorded that at 6th Avenue Recording Studio in Amory.
Yes.
Sure is that still? I doubt that's still there.
The sign's still there. And
well, there you
building.
go.
So I don't know if they still operate out of there, but so the first time Dakota recorded with us was 5 songs on The Surface, and we did a ton of rehearsal before those sessions. We really wanted to go into the studio knowing our part, and the Demons was a very bass-driven song,
right.
And I didn't want to lose that element, and so I remember having it in my mind to tell our producer and Dakota, I was like, I really want a big bass tone for this, if y'all can pull that off when they get ready to track bass. But then I walked in while they were already beginning tracking, and it was so huge without me saying a word. I never even had to say it.
Nice.
Because they had toned Dakota in, and it was huge. It sounded perfect, and I think Demons did it was a perfect example.
It's always nice when everybody's like just automatically on the same page without even having
to
synchronize.
Anyone knew Dakota knew that if he thought something was funny, that he wouldn't let it die.
Yeah.
And, it could be 3 years of road trips later that we're going to be on the road and he's going to bring that something up and laugh about it.
That's a good segue. While the song was playing, you and I were talking about like funny. I want you to share a funny Dakota story with us. Cause it's hard not to be sad, but when you think back at the memories, they were anything but sad. I mean, in fact, that's all I remember is just laughing all the time when Dakota was around.
When Dakota was around, even the sad stuff was funny. That is so true of a statement.
Yeah. So share with us a good, funny Dakota story. I know you got a bunch.
Too many to even. I could go all night actually, but one I like to tell, which to tell the story is not nearly as funny as you being there. But we played a show in Jackson, Tennessee once, and 2 weeks before this gig, and I didn't want to cancel it because we were new to this venue, and I wanted to make a good impression, and wanted to have future bookings there. But 2 weeks before this gig, Jake called, and he was in a car accident. Luckily, he was okay, minus his collarbone. He had literally broken his collarbone, so he needed to be about 4 to 6 weeks without playing drums.
Right.
So we canceled everything but this one gig. And we had Derek Gerard Boggin to fill in for us. And he did such a fantastic job filling in.
He's a good drummer.
Especially on the spot,
Yeah.
And because he got very little rehearsal time with us, but he just fit in right away.
I was at that gig. I think we opened up for y'all, if I'm not mistaken.
So. It was something to that effect.
I think if I remember, because we played the Fertile Turtles several times. I think we were introducing y'all to the venue. Place,
yeah,
to the venue.
I believe you're right.
I think we were kind of passing the torch because y'all have done it so many times for us, and I was like, "Hey, man, y'all need to come play this place."
I believe you're right. This is exactly what went down.
Because I was there because it was funny because Jake was on the front row with one arm, kind of coaching. Because Derek did he rehearse at all? Like maybe one time?
One rehearsal, but he did so great in rehearsal. But then when Jake was there, because Jake wasn't at the rehearsal we had with Derek.
Yeah.
But when Jake was at the venue, Derek was so pressured, I think, to playing it the way Jake did.
Right.
And then Jake was just, doing Jake and giving him cues and things like that. And it made Derek second guess himself a little bit, but he still flawlessly pulled off the gig.
Oh, it sounded good. You wouldn't have thought. You wouldn't have thought he had one rehearsal. That's
it
for
was
sure.
Funny to see Jake coaching him from the sidelines, though. But there was one part of the show that I really felt no one was really paying us any attention. There wasn't a big crowd, but there was enough.
Give them the setup.
Yeah, the bar
way it's laid out
is in front of the stage, and so people's back was turned to the stage.
The people at the bar have their the only person facing you would be like the bartender.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And there was tables in between the bar and the stage, but there really wasn't many people occupying the tables. It was just everybody at the bar, and so. I think this a lot because I live in my head a lot, but I thought I could say anything right now and no one would know what I say or care. They'll just probably agree with me if anything at all. So I cut a really bad dad joke from the stage, and embarrassed Dakota a little bit. And I remember him doing that and bowing his head and turning away so people wouldn't see. He was like, "Oh yeah," he was like, "That was horrible." And I think the joke I gave was like, we want to thank Derek for coming out and playing drums for us. It was short notice, and last week our drummer was tragically killed in a car accident. And then when I said that, people from the bar turned and were like, "Oh no!"
As if we would have played the gig.
I didn't think that they were even listening, and it was bad. It was so bad. Then I said, "Oh no, I'm just kidding. Jake's right here. He's our drummer. He's right there." And Jake just smiles and waves, and people were like, and they're just like, "Oh," and then they turned around back to their drinks to the bar, and then it was done. But that was something that Dakota was just like shaking his head. Anyway, the story is, like I was saying earlier, how Dakota, if you knew him, he would never let anything die. That whole road trip home, that's all he talked about. And we dropped the guys off in Fulton, and we were headed on that stretch to Amory, and we laughed so hard that we didn't even speak word. We just laughed so hard that I remember hurting for days after that, like physical pain for laughing so hard. And that's the way Dakota was. Like, you even take a moment that's bad, and he would turn it into the funniest thing.
Yeah, because sometimes those awkward moments like that, when you realize the people were listening,
yeah,
and then you sound like an a-hole. That those awkward moments in hindsight are funnier than if you said something that killed.
He loved to prank people. One time we were on a long road trip, and it was daylight pulling into Amory. I mean, the sun was up high. I think it was like 7 a.m. That's how late in the morning it was, We had been driving all night long. Everybody that was in the car with us was passed out. We've even except for me and Dakota. We even made an announcement, "Hey, we're going to pull into McDonald's. We're going to get a breakfast biscuit." Nobody said a word. Nobody. I was like, "They're all asleep, dude." I was like, "We're almost home. Let's just stop and get us a biscuit." So we did. Of course, me and Dakota got us a biscuit from McDonald's, and then we pull away. And then we heard somebody rumbling around back there, and it was Jake. And we said, "Hey, Jake, we got you a biscuit." And he rose out of his slumber just half awake, and he's like, "Oh, you did?" And it goes like, "Nah, we just kidding. We didn't get you nothing." And he started he was like, "Well, you guys suck." And The thing is Dakota never let that moment die.
Right.
Like, we relived that morning, on every road trip after that.
Would have been even funnier if you and Dakota were actually eating biscuits.
Oh, we were.
Oh.
We were eating. We were eating. It's like we're rattling the bag around like we had one for him.
And you had the smell in there, like
yes,
delicious buttery biscuits.
Yes,
smell.
And he was so hungry too. He's like, "Oh, I'm so hungry." I remember, I remember like he was so upset that we Dakota just like picked on him forever about that, and but in a good way. That's why I said Dakota loved pranks. He loved, making people laugh, and he loved playing music. Man, he loved every bit of it. He loved, I think there's so many pictures. The pictures I put, if you go on the Stick and Seven Facebook page, the picture that I set at the profile, that's a perfect example of, because that was my view from stage every night.
Right.
I looked over to my right, and there's Dakota, and he had his eyes closed. And he's singing just with all of his heart, and that was just that's what I remember, and that's what I want to remember forever.
Absolutely.
And that's when I look to my right. That's what I'm going to see. Forever.
You mentioned singing. That was another thing about Dakota and what he brought to Seeking Seven was not only was he a badass bass player, but his harmonies were spot on. So much so that I remember it, like I said before, I sang Pitiful Me, guys, on your album. And not Pitiful Me. Yeah, that's
Pitiful
it.
Me, yep.
And when I went to, I like to just surprise you sometimes at shows, like you don't even know I'm going to be there.
Yeah.
And I showed up at Double D's one night in Steens. Yeah. And I remember because I just showed up. I wasn't planning on coming. It just lined up to where I could. I was like, hey, let's go to that Seeking Seven show. Because I was wearing like a camouflage pullover.
Yeah.
Like I looked like I just got out of the deer stand. I didn't look like a rock and roller by any means. And y'all did Pitiful Me. And you got me to come up on stage to sing it with you. And of course, I had to use Dakota's mic because that's the only two mics you had on stage. And I loved his part so much because I did the screaming parts and then he did the harmonies.
Right.
And of course, I didn't even know the harmonies. And I liked his part so much that like when it was his turn, I would hold the mic for him while he sang it. Like I was his mic stand. And what was cool is I had no idea that a picture was taken that night of that performance. And I can't remember who it was posted it.
I think it was Dale Jones, Hitman.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was him that shot.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, I was scrolling through the news feed after he passed, and I saw that picture. And of course, you see just me, you, and Dakota standing there, and I was like, "Wow, I'm so glad somebody caught a picture of that because that was a cool night, man. That was fun.
I mean, every night with Dakota was cool, and every night with you there. Speaking of harmonies, I was working on a demo. I wrote it on one of my long weekends. I think it was, I know it was Memorial Day weekend when I was working on this one. And, I hash out ideas all the time, and 80% of them are throwaways, and I was pretty sure that this idea was going to be in that 80% stack of throwaways, but at least it's ideas and it's a chance for me to exercise that muscle. Anyway, no idea, in my mind was ever complete without me showing it to Dakota because he had a strong sense of approval. If you got Dakota's approval, you thought, well, shoot, maybe there is something to this, Anyway, there was this line, I said, wonderful pain, and I sang that line, and without even thinking about it, Dakota hit like a third higher harmony, and it gelled so well that I'm like, wait a minute, do that again. And we went over those harmonies, and the reason that Wonderful Pain got recorded at all, and it left that batch of 80% of the throwaways to that,
Made it to
20% is because of what Dakota added to it, his harmony. It made me like the song, his harmony, and that's because I was just writing, and I never knew that would be. We ended up making that a single. That's the song I would play next, because if it wasn't for Dakota, this song probably wouldn't have made it past the demo stage, and that really made me love having him around. Not because he was a staple in our sound as far as bass playing goes, but he added that dimension of harmony so well.
Where did he learn to sing so well and to play bass? Because
again,
he was so young.
You know, there's some,
and he had only been in, as far as I know, that one band that I'd forgotten about, Karma on Attack.
Well, you know, that's what I noticed in Karma.
Did he go up singing in church?
He did, actually. You know, and he would tell us all the time. He goes, "You guys don't notice, but I go to these churches." And he was at least a little bit ashamed about it, which he had no reason to be. But he's like, "Man, I go to these black churches all over the place because they play the funkiest bass of anybody you ever hear, and that's where I learned." And he did. He would literally go to around different ones, not the same ones. He would jump from black church to black church on Sundays to have an opportunity to play with really, really funky bass.
Awesome.
And that's a little unknown fact about Dakota.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And he wasn't ashamed to tell anybody that either.
I played in a church band on bass for 3 years. And man, you got to come correct on them bass lines with some Jesus music.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, it's centered
like
around
sometimes the rhythm guitar is kind of, especially like praise and worship music, is just kind of, the basics.
Yeah.
If you know your basic chords and power chords, you can probably make it through. But you gotta make it walk, make it talk on the bass a little bit.
Well, if you ever sit down and watch the documentary on the birth of funk music, it started in a church. That style of slap bass, pop, boom, pop, that literally started in churches, but way before it hit, dance halls and radio. It was funk bass started in church, and Dakota liked having a great sense of time, and that was and that's something that most people don't even notice, like the quality of a musician, and producers know it because they struggle with teaching musicians to play in time. But then you got these musicians who can play in time. They're like, okay, cool, I don't have to work on that. But then there's these certain other musicians that are so good with time, they can do what I call flirt with time.
Yeah.
They know it so well, they can be off and it'll be perfect.
And it'll still be on.
Yes.
They can kind of walk on the curb, but still be have the right syncopation to where it.
But you have to have a great sense of timing to get to there. It's like,
oh yeah, and you can get away with it on bass. So you can kind of flirt with the timing.
To answer your question, where do you learn it? I always tapped it out as being naturally gifted, and that's exactly what Dakota was. He was. He had it in his blood and in his heart and his spirit, and he was gifted at it. He had the thing, and I mean, he sorely missed, and I do honor. I honor most of all of being the guy in the band that he chose to dedicate his time to, because he was so good. He could have been anywhere with any band, anywhere.
I mean, on a lucky to have him.
Yeah, on a professional circuit, and the fact that he invested in us, and I got to share his life with him. I'll never forget that. I'll keep him close to my heart forever.
And how lucky we were, not just to know him, but to have these songs that we can listen to forever.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, that's a good segue. Set up the next tune for us.
Yeah, this is Wonderful Pain, the one that I kept because of him.
There you go. Here it is. That was
Wonderful Pain.
Wonderful Pain.
Wonderful Pain, like I said earlier, is it's a tune that wouldn't have made a list without him. I mean, Dakota made that song our keeper for me, and he's on the record. I mean, those harmonies are awesome. And
okay, break down for the listeners. Like, I know all of them, but like you from the first album he was on, and then the last one would have been What If You Remain Volume 1, right?
Right.
So it was The Surface, Chaos Before the Fall, and Volume 1.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And also, we'll see what time does for us, but we recorded a whole different Vol 2.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that.
I put away because when during COVID, I sat down and wrote a new batch of songs.
Yeah,
and I felt those were Vol 2. But when we had the Vol 1 sessions, we actually recorded the entire album. We demoed 27 songs, recorded 16, and kept 12. So there's 6 other songs that me and Dakota wrote together that are unreleased.
Does he play? Have you got his tracks recorded on him?
Oh yeah, all of them. Yeah.
All of them.
Yeah,
wow.
we were finished.
That'd be some gems.
We finished all 12 of them. That we.
What is that? Do I hear
keep.
Volume 3 gonna come out?
Well, I mean, quite possibly. I mean, there's sometimes reasons these didn't make it, but I remember though, there's a few of these that, both Dakota and Amber were upset that didn't make the record, and I was like, well, songs have a funny way of showing and popping up in later albums. You know?
In different stages.
Yeah. So I mean, they're not dead; they're just not making this effort. That's because we wrote so many, though. We wrote, like I said, during the Vol 1 sessions, they were really the What Few Remain session, and I had 27 demos. He had a few, 27 altogether, and we took 16 of those or 17 because we did one cover song, 17 of those, and recorded those. And then we started narrowing it down, and we had to pick 12. And of those 12, we picked the first 6 to be volume 1. And the whole idea was, let's give it some time in between. Then we're going to release a vol 2. But then that's when COVID kind of happened, and Dakota stepped away. And when I wrote the songs that ended up being on vol 2, I just thought because they were fresh, you know, and I thought they were they fit the mood I was in and the message that was in What Few Remain.
It's just cool that you have those gems there readily available.
They are there.
Even if you just release it as like some kind of tribute or something like that. I mean, you've got them
possible
to do something with. Let me ask you a question. What was Dakota's favorite? And I think I know that the answer to this, but let me see if what I think it is matches your answer. What was his favorite cover song to play live?
Gosh,
I was going to say probably the Coheed and Cambria song. He seemed to really like get down on that one.
He threw down on. Actually, I think it was Wasteland by 10 Years. That's why we played it so much.
And the good harmonies on his part.
Because good harmonies. Well, when we were in Knoxville recording the Surface record, it was actually Dakota. I'll be a little embarrassed to tell the story for my own right, but it's true. So here it goes. We were in the studio, and these 2 dudes walked in, and they were there to see Travis, but we met them all, shook their hands. It was at the end of our session. You know, we were pretty much, we were almost done for the whole day. So we were just at the point it was about 9:30 at night, and we were hanging out. Dakota pulled me to the side, and he whispered in my ear, he goes, "Those are the guys from 10 Years. I was like, "No way." He goes, "No, I'll prove it to you. Those are the guys." And I was like, "Okay, all right." And then it sure enough, it was Brian and Jesse, I believe, from 10 Years. And they listened to our demos, or what we were recording there with Travis, and they had big smiles on their faces, pat her on the back. We had a good time. Well, I found this out later, they were in the process of recording the record called Minus the Machine, and they were doing that all on their own.
Good album title.
Yeah, and it was great, and a great record too. What's so awesome about this record, they had this is the first time they had the courage to do the record all by themselves. They literally recorded at home, but they were bringing some rough mixes to Travis for advice. And that's why they were there that evening.
A quick side story, I saw them on tour when they were touring that album. They were opening for Breaking Benjamin, and Barry Poole bought me tickets for my birthday.
Oh.
And they opened up, and I thought it was hilarious because the singer dressed up as Boss Hogg with the white tux and cowboy hat on.
No kidding.
I thought that's neat.
Great. That is neat. Well, what's funny story about that is that after that session, we went back to the hotel room, and Dakota promised me that he would prove it to me that was the guys from 10 Years. So he pulled up the Wasteland video, and this is why it's embarrassing. This is 2012-ish. That was the very first time that I ever heard Wasteland, and I watched the video, and I was just like, I had the same feeling. And close your ears, Mark, because it might. I had the same feeling I had with the first time I heard Infect. Lyric, sound, music. I thought that's something I write. That's something.
Why'd you say close your ears? That's a compliment.
That's how I write. I really felt that. That's. I mean, it just came to them first, because I would eventually have written, a song just like that. I felt that way about the 10 Years song. And that was the first time I heard it. And sure enough, those guys I was like, yeah, that is the guy that we hung out with tonight. And that was really awesome. So we came back home from those sessions, and I just was like, dying to cover Wasteland. And Dakota was like, we were riding down the road. I was like, well, Dakota, can you, stupid question. We were new. I was like, Dakota, can you do those harmonies on it? Because I don't want to do that 10-year song without those harmonies there.
He's like, cha.
And then he's like, well, let's try it. And we literally in the car
Acapella?
on a road trip, acapellaing, practicing the harmonies to it. And it gave me the confidence to come home and bash that tune out. And that became a staple in our set list for a really, really long time. His favorite cover song was definitely, I mean, he had so many, but, that was definitely the favorite cover song that we covered. Now, he wanted us to play some Nothing More covers. He wanted to push us to there.
Mm.
That vocalist is so good, I was always scared I couldn't pull off the vocals. But that was
Shane and Sean start rattling off songs they want to do. I'm like, hey, excuse me, I gotta sing them.
Exactly.
That's not terrifying at all.
No.
This is a new TV, and it like talks when it wants something.
Wow.
It's like, Mark, bring me something. Bring.
I like TV.
Got some AI shit going on with it.
I think, we both, him and I, we were so close in the making of What Few Remain. We were close always, but that summer that we wrote that album, it was mainly me and him because Jake was real busy. We only got Jake some of the time, and you know yourself, once you lay drums down, then that's when the creative process begins.
Yeah.
So Jake does his part early on, then the rest was up to me and Dakota to hash out the rest. And I remember I came up with this demo. It had a weird name. I can't even remember the name now. It was a funny working title. But Dakota immediately heard the bass line and he asked me, "Did you play that?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, I played it." He goes, "Dude, that's amazing." He complimented me on the bass. I was like, "No, it's simple. It's just this." He goes, "No, dude, that has a groove to it, And so he goes,
really talented musicians, especially bass players, recognize that sometimes less is more.
Exactly. So he took that dumb demo because he loved the bass groove so much that I just scratched in there as an example. He goes, "Let me do it." And when he did it, the song woke up and it became our lead single, which was Crucified.
Nice.
And I would not have, it was a no-brainer when we asked ourselves, okay, what video are we going to shoot? It was like Crucified, without a doubt. And it was so great because we spent so much time together in those sessions hammering out ideas. I remember I'll write something like as a pre-chorus or I had this other chorus laid out and we had worked on it for like days and days and days. And then I would like take it on my long drives to work every day, and I would come up with something completely different. And then I'll have to bring him back over. I was like, all that work we did last week? I came up with this. And then we'll rework it. And we really squeezed out everything we could. And what's so amazing, and this is the story I want to tell about Dakota, is we were working on those sessions. And we're talking about the way that you record these days. Most big studios even record this way these days. But it's no secret now. It used to be a big secret, but you take your drums and you replace them.
Yeah.
You take your drums and you put them on a grid that's on perfect time. You make the kick. You stack snares. You do all this dressing up in the studio to get it to really pop on a record. And then you punch in and out these things. You use auto-tune and all kinds of junk, and a lot of these people in these new records, they'll deny they did it, but that's how they're made, and we literally, after we demoed all these songs, I remember I was grilling out one night because we just got done with the writing session.
What were you grilling?
I was grilling steak. Yeah.
Dude.
That's the way I go.
Ribeyes are $13 a now.
I know.
Depressing. Anyway, go ahead.
No.
You mentioned food. I'm a fat boy, so.
I remember us hashing out how we're going to record this album, talking about What Few Remain. And this is when it was a full album before we broke it up into 2 EPs. I said, Dakota, I got a harebrained idea. And I was like, just hear me out. He's like, all right. I was like, what if we did use all those studio tricks? What if we treated every mic like that's what goes on the record? What if we didn't punch in and punch out? What if we took every section of the song and treat it, even though that I don't have the ability to record on 2-inch tape, pretend that we were recording on tape.
Each take is a complete performance?
Yes. No fixies. I mean, we used EQ and compression, and that's it. We treated every tape, no punch ins, no
the old
punch
meat
outs.
and potato.
We used 0 auto tune. We doubled no drum. We didn't fix anything. We either played it right or we threw the whole track away and started over. Because that's the way they do it in analog studios. Even though I didn't have the analog,
they don't want to waste tape.
And he goes, well, if we do that, our instruments have to sound good. And I was like, you're right. So I bought a brand new drum kit and we tuned it up perfectly. I bought all these brand new mics. And we took a chance to do what no other band is doing. And it may sound like it's in a garage, but I want to tell you that one of my most proud things about What Few Remain, Volume 1, is that it's as close to analog that any band can get. And me and Dakota made that decision consciously because we didn't want a dressed up, polished album.
Right.
We even to the point after we finished tracking it, we sent it to a really, really, really good mixing guy, and immediately he stripped the drums down and started replacing it with fake stuff. And we stopped him right there and said, no, we want you to take what we actually recorded, and that's it. And it turned out to be that I ended up having to mix the record myself, only because this new way of recording has got nobody wanting to go back the old way. And I'm real proud about that fact. I mean, it may not sound as polished as most records.
I think it sounds great. And I definitely, we talked about this before. I want to kind of send us home with that track. But before we do, the one last thing I wanted to add, and it's a little premature for me to say this, and if it's too premature, feel free to edit this out, but because we don't know how it's going to happen because of the COVID. We don't know in what form or when it's going to take place, but I think it's safe to say there's definitely some talks of doing a memorial tribute concert.
Yes, it's in the talk.
Even though it's really early on, is it okay for me to at least put it out there that it's going to happen? Like I think that's one definite thing.
There's so many
up in the air details because of we're in the middle of a damn pandemic.
We really want this pandemic to go away.
We don't know how to do it exactly or which way it's going to be done, but there's a lot of interest in it, and a lot of bands have.
We want everyone that knew and loved and interacted with Dakota in any form to be a part of this, but we don't want to do that at the expense that they fear for their own health and safety concerns.
Right.
So I don't want to do a benefit that involves a lot of people right now, at which we are going to do one at some point, a memorial service benefit, and but we want to do it when everybody feels safe doing it.
Right.
And also, we're going to do a couple live performances that are virtual as well. And we are going to try to raise money. And this is a cause that's very close to Dakota's heart, which is we're going to put all the money to Down syndrome research in Dakota's name. So 100% of anything that we raise through the memorial service, the benefit, and the virtual shows all of that is going to go into research for Down syndrome.
And I'm sure there's a lot of details to iron out because, of course, the old school way of doing benefits is, you charge a cover, and then the cover charge goes towards the benefit. Well, if there's no cover because there's no crowd,
right?
It's all virtual. That's a whole nother. Do you set up a virtual tip bucket? Do you make it a thing where you pay to watch the concert? Like, there's a lot of logistics to iron out and pan out. But
and it's not about money at all. It's about remembering Dakota. But I want people to know that by contributing, you're not contributing to Seek and Seven.
Right.
You're contributing to Dakota has a little brother who has Down syndrome. And he always talked to me about putting up the benefit to help the research to go towards a benefit that supports Down syndrome people. It was something that was just real dear and close to his heart, and you can, you don't have to contribute a thing, and it's not about money. However, when we go to whatever society that most helps Down syndrome patients, and we give them a check in Dakota's name, we don't want it to be an embarrassing number. We want it to be substantial enough to say this is how much he cared about it, and this is how much people love Dakota to make this happen for him. And but it's definitely not about money, you know? But yeah, it's continue. There will be a memorial service and several things, but we just don't know when that's going to be. We definitely want to.
A lot of details to iron out.
We want to be patient, and we want to make sure the time's right, and most importantly, we want everyone to feel safe doing it.
Absolutely. Well, to send us home, we talked about doing Crucified. That was such a brilliant video that you did. I've watched it a lot of times, and just a little a factoid, and I'm sure you remember, but to remind everybody else, you debuted this song on Real Pop Culture.
I did.
Where's my bell?
Shameless promotion tool is missing.
A little better late than never. You debuted this song on Real Pop Culture, and just walk us through that video. Like, I was like, dadgum, that's a good idea.
Well, first of all, the video happened because of Dakota. And I remember, him and I looking at it together, because albums are not free, unfortunately. And we were not booking a lot of shows at the time.
Well, they're not free to make.
Yeah, no.
But now they're free to listen to.
Yeah, they're free to listen to, but not free to make. And I remember that we, at one time, before the making of it, we sat down and we divided the cost between me and him. This is how much the record's going to cost, and we agreed to go half on half with it. And it turns out the making of the record and distribution and all that was pretty substantial. Even to do it yourself at home record.
Oh yeah.
But a video was not quite as expensive, but just it was up there too. And I ended up making a deal with Dakota, and one day I said, just the way it's panning out, I said, I tell you what, I'll pay for the record being made if you pay for the video. And he's like, all right, good. I mean, he got the better end of the deal, but he was passionate from that point on about that video. And that video happened because of Dakota. So I know that's something that we kind of keep private in the band, but Dakota paid for that video.
Oh, wow. I didn't know
I paid for the album, he paid for the video. And that was our agreement that we had come up with. And so we have that video because of Dakota. But, I remember I wrote a treatment and I pitched a bunch of ideas, like a bunch of them. They're all stupid, too. I had to pitch them for me to realize how stupid half of them were. And then I had actually finally settled on one. Dakota and I said, yeah, this is what we want. Dakota was happy. I was happy. Jake was happy. And it was just the three of us, me, Jake, and Dakota. And the week of the shot, this is after I've already talked to the guy producing the video and said, "Here's the treatment. This is what we're doing."
Sergi?
Yeah, Stagey.
Stagey.
Yeah. And I already had conversation with him, and I gave him the treatment. And then, but I was driving to work one morning, and then
that was mature.
A whole new idea hit me about how I felt like people were living their lives in their phones and not paying attention to the good that's happening right there in front of you. And so I came up with the idea about the cell phones, and I called Stagey up. Well, first I called Dakota and gave him, he goes, "Sold. That's it. That's what we're going to do." And I called Stagey up and said, "I'm so sorry. This is a last minute change. I know you hate this." And he was very reluctant to even hear my new pitch. But I said, "This is what we're going to do." And after he heard it, he goes, "Cool. I like it. Let's do it."
Brilliant.
And that's how it came up with. That's how I came up with it. But we had actually had the plan, the treatment and the plan and the script kind of written out weeks before this. But the actual one script that we stuck with, we didn't come up with it. I came up with it at like the week up. And so I
remember you telling me about it a couple of weeks before y'all committed it to tape. I got an old term there. And I was like, damn. Like I'm proud of you and jealous at the same time that I wish that's something I'd come up with.
You know,
it's so perfect for this day and age too. It speaks volume and it fits with the song and like just the whole thing.
Actually, I really didn't think at the time that people will pick up on it or it would even be a subject talked about. But when the video dropped, that's all people talked about it. They're like, "Oh, the idea! Whoever came up with this," they were like, "That's so." I didn't think of it as genius at the time. I was just like,
it holds up.
This
in
was
such
just
a way
statement.
That it's becoming more true as time goes on.
I wanted to.
It's not dated because now, if you came out with that video in 1997 when we were using flip phones, it'd been like, huh?
Yeah.
But from this point forward, it's only going to become more relevant because the idea that people are living with their faces in their cell phones is even worse.
Yeah, and you got to think about the next generation that comes. They don't know nothing else, and
it's like the movie WALL-E.
Yeah,
it's like my favorite animated film.
We're practically living that, and you and I can understand the statement because before internet, with feet on the streets, a few flyers in your hand, posting them on windows or walking through a mall,
stable on the telephone pole,
you can have 100 to 200 people at a show with very little effort. And now we got this wonderful tool called the internet that's at our fingertips, and we can't get people's faces off of it long enough. I mean, it's just such a different world than it used to be. I mean, people used to look for reasons to get out of their house. Now they look for reasons to stay at home, you know, and it's just a different world. And it's a hard adjustment to make when people like you and I are used to that old way, and it is a tough adjustment, but it is what it is, and
I encourage everyone.
I just wanted to bring somebody's attention to it. That's the reason I did the video.
You definitely said it all in the video, and I liked it, the simplicity of it, and the huge message that. And also, what I was fixing to say is, I encourage anybody. We're fixing to play this song, but go watch the video. The company's song, it's amazing,
and you truly get to see Dakota in his element. And that's why I cherish this particular video so much, not because he paid for it, but because you get to witness Dakota at his finest moment, that we had as a band, and him as a musician, and him in his element. His obituary said he was a professional bass player. You could see that in this video. Why his obituary read that? Because he was every bit professional.
Absolutely.
And my heart is going to forever be empty now that he's not here. But you can witness it for yourself. Just go check out the video.
And here it is, crucified by 6 and 7.
Hey, wait a minute, I just got here. I fought too long to surrender in fear.